So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
Well, listen here.
Hello, and welcome to 90 Day Fiancé MK. I'm Mr. O, and today, Miss H and I will be discussing Season 5, Episode 2 of Before the 90 Days. In this episode, we meet one new person and check in with the other couples. New guy Mike seems to be a little old to just be getting into the dating game. Alina gets the turkey and is disappointed with the hotel room. Memphis gets some advice from her foster sister Ingrid. Gino gets to Panama when Jazmine tries to get his hat off. And Usman's friends can't believe he wants another older American woman hanging around. As always, we'll end with our Students of the Week, class dunces, and life lessons. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and subscribe. And if you also watch Love After Lockup, you should listen to our other podcast, Love After Lockup MK. All right, thanks for listening, stay safe, and enjoy.
Hello, Mr. O.
Hello, Miss H.
How are you?
I'm not doing too bad. I still have a few more days before Christmas break for me, but not for you.
Nope, I started a couple days ago, and I'm out of there.
Yeah, you're very out, which is why your audio might be a little bit less than ideal today.
Yeah.
We apologize if that's not up to anyone's standards, but you know.
Don't want to be lugging around a microphone.
Yeah, they are heavy, these nice microphones we have.
Well, yeah, and I got to be kind of weight conscious as well, because I usually have a ton of other stuff because I usually travel with dive equipment, so.
Yes, yep. All right, so who are we going to start with today?
Okay, well, let's talk about traveling, which a lot of these couples got started on. So let's start with Gino and Jasmine. So Gino is slowly making his way to Panama to see Jazmine. We are reminded that Gino was divorced 7 years ago, and he's only known Jazmine for 9 months, but he's ready to start a family with her. We get to Jazmine's side of the story, the 24 hours earlier, and it starts off with an ass shot on a rooftop pool. Jazmine says she is hot and intelligent and cannot be tamed. She has 2 sons, her oldest, who lives with her ex-husband, and her younger son, who lives with her and her mom in the countryside. Jazmine recognizes how her and Gino are so different, including their age, fashion sense, and eating habits. She is upfront that she hates his stupid hat. Because Jazmine has a roommate, I'm guessing she refers to as her mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, you have roommates. You mean your family?
Children, right.
Yeah. Gino is renting a suite during his stay. We then get a taste of their baby talk with one another. Jazmine then talks about sex with Gino, and she just hopes that he's not delicate, but because she likes to be wild. Jazmine's friend, Grizel, meets Jazmine at the hotel room to help her decorate. Grizel is concerned that Gino is lying to her, and she just doesn't know him. Speaking of lying, it ends up that Gino lied about his age. He said he was 34, and it ends up he's 52. Jazmine then tells her friend that he has to send her evidence because she is convinced every man is a cheater, and that's not going to happen to her again. Grizel calls her out and says, "That's psycho." Gino finally lands in Panama, and Jazmine is in her sexiest heels walking through the airport. They finally see each other, and Gino seems a little bit confused because they both aren't quite sure it's the other since they're both wearing masks. They take off their masks and kiss. Gino stares at her boobs, saying she's super hot, and Jazmine says he's super cute. They do some more baby talk as they make out. Gino's excited to be with Jazmine sexually, but he's also nervous. They continue to be all over each other in the cab. They get to the room and immediately start jumping on and testing out the bed. Jazmine asks if he wants to take off the hat, and he says, "Not now." Gino then gives Jazmine a gift, an electric toothbrush, which she's just confused and kind of disappointed about. But Gino assumes they don't have electric toothbrushes in Panama, so he thinks it's special.
Oh, yeah.
Then Gino shows Jazmine the pregnancy tests he bought because he wants to have babies immediately. But Jazmine thinks that's crazy, so she's taking birth control pills and just hasn't told Gino. Jazmine then asks for Gino's password to his phone, and she says she wants to check his phone to see if he's been a good boy. Gino definitely sees this red flag, but he's just hoping that stuff will just go away. What the hell is wrong with you?
Well, I just have to prove it, like...
Yeah, it'll just go away. All right, how do you see like this whole family baby thing playing out if Jazmine were to actually agree? Because he isn't 34.
No, he's not 34. He's not 44, isn't he? Isn't he like 50?
He's 52. Okay, first of all,
52.
It angers me when people lie that badly about their age.
I thought she said he lied and said he was 44.
Oh, no. I think it had subtitles on. She said 34.
Okay, that's very extreme. That's 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, that's me saying I'm like 20. Like, that's crazy talk.
Okay, and this is not to say that there are 34-year-olds in the world that, you know, don't look as, you know, young as Gino. Because
right.
I guess what I'm trying to
Fair.
say is that there are always a spectrum of people, and it's always kind of hard to tell people's age if you're kind of on one of the two end of the extremes.
Sure.
And I do think
Sure.
Gino looks good for 52, and I'm not saying he doesn't. But it almost like angers me when people lie that grossly about their age, because I don't think it's about looks anymore. I think it's about you're trying to get someone that is the age that you're lying about.
That's true. That's true. I mean, just, yeah, because of the kid thing. But it's weird because it's not the person who's the older one. Usually it's the person who's the older one who's lying about their age, who also doesn't want to have kids because they're super old. Right. And they're like, you know, because he's looking at 52. It's like he's going to be 62 when the kid's 10. I mean, we've done that math. We've heard that math before too, right? Right. But I'm saying by the time that kid's gone, he's 70. Right? By the time the kid's out of the house, if they do it right away. Yeah. Right? And that's tough because it's usually the other way. And it's usually you lie about your age and then they find out your real age. It also comes packaged with, and by the way, I don't want to have kids because I'm fucking old. Right?
Yeah. But you know, even still, it's like, all right, so say they do it, right? And they have kids. It's like, are you actively helping with this child? Because to me, that's like man or woman. It just seems like it is exhausting to do the midnight feedings, having to take care of, and like, I say like at my age, like, I don't want to do that. I would not choose that for myself,
I'm done.
let alone 10 years from now choosing that for myself. That sounds awful.
I don't know. The thing about it for me isn't even that, as you know, me and sleep we don't care. Sleep doesn't matter to me. But that's not the part. It's not that acute 2 years that bothers me. It's it's an 18-year commitment that you're making. Like you're not done. That's the part that gets me. Is like, you know, I'm only like halfway done now, you know, like with my children that I already have, and to look at this and be like, oh, you want me to start this over again and start this whole 20-year process over again? Yeah. It's like that's the part that's crazy to me. But like, I mean, he seems all in, and especially because it's tricky because she has the other kids, and I'm concerned that she doesn't actually have either of her kids. That's pretty, if not red flag, maybe yellow flag. Because I kind of interpreted what she said about her kids differently. And I interpreted that she lives in the city and her mom took the kid, not with her, to the countryside. And she still lives in the city. So right now, one of her kids lives with her ex and one of her kids lives with her mom, and she has a roommate in the city.
Interesting. I would be interested to know what she meant by roommate, because that was kind of like you're talking about your mom, because she made it imply, to me, she implied that, so what she had said specifically is that during the pandemic, her younger son has special needs. She needed to support whatever special needs that he had with having to learn from school. So remote schooling was definitely part of it. And whole like child care, because obviously you're not going to school. So that's why she, moved to the countryside so her mom could help out. That's kind of how I interpret it. And I also interpret it as she also went. Because why would you dump your kid off with your mom?
No, that's the part, because I was concerned. Why did she dump her kid off with their mom? Because I think she works in the city. Her job's in the city.
Right. But if this is a garbage person, which, you know, it's all up in the air at this point, she could be a garbage person. Then, totally. Yes, that's something a garbage person would do. See ya, you're living with grandma.
Right. And if you already had, and especially if you're already that kind of, I mean, yes and no. Because, yes, if you're that person, at least she recognizes that she's done this twice and is like, yeah, I don't think it would go very well the third time. I don't know that I want to do that right now, right away.
I wonder a little bit because you hear about this, but not a lot in America. So that's why it kind of makes me wonder, like, if this is like the norm in other countries. But it just seems like when, you know, you have a situation where you have multiple kids, it seems like everybody kind of splits up and it's like, I'm going to take this kid, you take this kid.
Yeah, that's weird. That's not how things usually work out in America.
They definitely don't work like that in America. But like, I feel like I've seen it a few times in other countries.
Like, let's divide and conquer this bitch. And
yeah,
we'll each
like,
just take
I'll take the boy and you take the girl, or I'll take the older one, you take the younger one. It kind of sounds like that's what happened here, which is how she ended up responsible for the younger son. Because to me, I mean, if this were America and she was really having difficulty, like, usually what would happen, assuming that they had the same father, you would go to live with the father. Because if the older one's living with the father anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an unusual situation to us. Yes. That they split up. But like, I mean, I don't know. I just also kind of think it's hypocritical of her already to be like, well, he's a liar. He lied about its age. That's fine. But you're lying about the birth control. Like,
okay, that's a bigger lie. I don't know. Actually, is it? Would you say it's a bigger lie?
Oh, geez. I don't know. I mean, it's definitely an unacceptable lie. They're both unacceptable lies for a relationship to work. But, like, it's definitely one that you can get away with. Oh, didn't get pregnant this month. Oh, we just didn't get pregnant this month. Because it's not even this month. He's there for like 2 weeks. Right. It's just like, it's not very much not unheard of to go for it for 2 weeks out of 1 month and be like, yeah, I didn't get pregnant. Right. So it's something that, like, it's not like she's, you know, made something impossible or like, you know, went beyond something that could be reasonably excused or reasonably just been like, well, I just didn't get pregnant. But how is that supposed to be fostering a relationship with somebody if she won't even tell him, like, yeah, I don't want to have kids right now?
Yeah,
like,
that's
I want to
like
wait.
a big deal. But yeah, I think that's a bigger lie than him lying about its age if we're going to compare the two lies. Because one is like directly, you know, influencing your future together.
I don't know if the age isn't, right? If it's the age where it was like, I would have broken up with you if I knew what age you were. And he's like, I would have broken up with you if I knew you were on birth control, which, yikes. That's also just something that's so like weird to me. So many guys are like the other way. You'd be like, are you on birth control? And you're like, yes. And they're like, sweet. He's like, yes.
Yeah. Honestly, though, it'd be interesting too. Like, who knows? Maybe she would have been into the idea of a guy who's like 50 something because it sounds like she doesn't want to have any more kids. So she would probably be like, oh, a 50-year-old man with money and 50-year-old men aren't going to want to have families. Yes, I'm into that. But then it's like, yeah, this one, you know.
No, this one's already, this one wants to be a dad so much he bought you an electric toothbrush.
God, that is so,
like,
it's very on par with
it just makes it easier because it does all that. You don't have to move it with your hands. You just do it. It just moves really fast.
That is such a bizarre. Okay. The only reason why that could potentially be a gift is if she was complaining about how laborious it was to like brush her teeth by hand. And he's like, oh, yes. I have an idea of how to make your life easier. That would be the only context that would maybe be acceptable.
Right. It's definitely something that should have been discussed beforehand. But, you know, he's a t-shirt tucking into jeans guy. Like, I don't know. The
pants are so hideous.
God, they were so bad.
I'd never look at his pants and be like, oh.
They just, I mean, okay, so back up. They were bad enough and they were kind of a weird cut, but they didn't fit.
No, they don't. That's my biggest complaint. They're like parachute pants on him.
Yes.
They're like denim parachute pants.
And he's got that belt that he has to yank like way down on it. Yeah, it looks like It looks awful. And then it sits weird on his legs because the top has to be cinched so much to fit so it doesn't fall off his ass. It's just
so bizarre. They're kind of meant for each other, though, I think.
They were, though, because, like,
she
seemed...
stupid laugh. They have, like, the same laugh. It's, like, somehow weirdly harmonious, like, when they both laugh together. I'm just like, ah!
Right, and she was like... She actually, I mean, maybe she's a great actress or something, but she seemed like really physically into him.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't get it.
I don't know. She kind of like, the way she was playing everything up, it seems like she'd really be into anything, right? She just like, I'm so sexual. Like, I'm wild. So it's just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. And and then she did that annoying thing where she was like, I'm so sexual and I don't know if you'll be able to handle what I have. What do you want to do? I want to hit him in the butt. You'd be like, that's what you got? That's your big kinky thing? Yes. I want to hit him? Oh, hit him in the butt with a paddle thing?
Looking at his face, you'd be like, yeah, that guy's not into that.
That guy is into anything that's going to get his dick wet.
Oh, sure. But I'm just saying, but if you just look at the guy, you're just like, yeah, that guy. Mm.
I'm saying, but he'll do it for you. I don't know that that's what he wants.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
But he'll do what you want. That's for sure. Oh, all right. Let's move along to, let's go, it's short. Let's go Memphis and still not Hamza yet. So we're getting closer there. So Memphis has a lot of bags. I mean, not a Darcy amount of bags, but, a decent amount of bags to go to the airport. She dropped off her kids at her ex's, and now she's going to see her foster sister, Ingrid, who will be driving her to the airport. She wants to, before they go, have bacon because there's not really going to be much bacon available in Tunisia, especially with her, Muslim man and his Muslim family. So while they're eating some sort of bacon dish, Ingrid expresses her doubts that this thing is going to work out because, they don't really know each other. FaceTime is no replacement for real life. And, Memphis is a very impulsive and intimidating person. Ingrid asks Memphis what Memphis has told him about her ex-husband. And that's when we kind of get some extra into the story. I guess this seems like it was pandemic times, and like me and a lot of people, you're kind of stuck with your ex if you have kids with them for the pandemic. But she ended up doing this is not what I did.
I was going to say, I don't know if you want to tie yourself to that.
You kind of get thrown. It was like, I'm saying it was a normal situation when you're like, I had to see more of my ex than I wanted to because the kids are there. We can't go anywhere else. But the part where she slept in a bed, although says it's not intimate, that part never happened.
I don't believe that for a minute.
Yeah. And then that you don't believe that it wasn't intimate? No. We'll come back. back. So she knows that jealous Hamza would not appreciate that. So the next morning, they're on their way to the airport and they're chanting, going to Tunisia, or whatever that was. Anyway, Ingrid thinks that Hamza's going to be all over her, even if she's not at her sexiest, who is when they get off of a long plane ride. So she's a little worried that he won't be physically attracted to her because it seems like there's been issues with that in the past where people saw her in real life and were like, oh.
That's so sad. She's a cute girl.
I know. Anyway, she's in for a long day and a long flight, and looks like she damn near misses her first flight, and we see her sprinting through the airport to get there at the end of the show. All right, so we'll just start with that. You don't buy the nothing happened.
Not for a minute. Okay. See, the thing is Memphis is impulsive. I mean, even Ingrid says that, right? She's impulsive and a hothead. She's not going over to her ex-husband's just to cuddle up and be like, I need emotional support. She's like, I need some dick. That's what she's saying. I don't believe for a second.
Okay, let's back up then. We don't know her ex-husband.
No.
Her ex-husband could have been like, all right, no dick. You're not getting dick. This is not going to work.
Right. He's not letting her stay over just for emotional support. That is not happening either.
Okay.
Especially if this is
enough.
Pandemic times. It's not like he's like, ooh, I'm going to need you to leave. I have someone else coming over. The likeliness of that, I'm not saying it couldn't, but the likeliness of that happening, probably not super high, which is part of the reason why both of them, and I think that's why you get a lot of times exes hooking up with to begin with, because you're just kind of in a way, I could kind of see you're like, oh, well, I'm not sleeping with anyone new. You know?
Right.
So it's like, oh, it's kind of like some weird mental past people have in their minds.
I guess they do. This is not something that exists in my mind. Like, my ex is pretty far down on the list of people I would sleep with. Even if it was like no attachments, no hung up. Like that's like it was like no, that didn't work. Like I don't understand that wouldn't work
but
again.
I think people's perspective is kind of like okay, I'm not defending Memphis in this particular situation because she was supposed to be in a relationship. But at the same time, have I seen people do the mental acrobats that are like, well, I haven't slept with anyone else, and he was the last person I slept with, so it's really just kind of like lumped in with the first time. So it's no big deal.
I mean, I guess. I mean, people get horny and they do what they want to do, but like, it's just like that was, and it depends. I guess it also depends on the breakup too. If it becomes like a thing that's just, I don't know. It seems like a really weird person for me. And I'm getting too into what I'm saying to even like kiss or like, lay in a bed with. That would be like, I feel like that was just, it was such a, if it was a clean and a, thorough breakup and it's like, oh man, no, that road got trashed on the way out. Like there's no, that bridge is gone now. Right.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't even know how I'd even try to get back there. But as you said, it's not, I'm the weird one here because it seems like everybody else has no problems coming back and hooking up with their exes. And like, okay, so how deep was she in the relationship with Hamza when this happened? I wasn't totally clear about that either.
Yeah. I think she was vague on purpose, which is why I think she was lying. Honestly, I think she was lying because she knew how bad it would look if she were to say, oh yeah, like I slept with my ex-husband when I was like with this guy that I'm supposedly supposed to get married to. That's oh man, I always forget about that her plan is to get married. Yeah. When she gets down there, like, ugh. Okay, so speaking of that, the thing that just really bothers me about them getting married so soon on, and like she's even pushing for it, so it makes it even weirder for me, is like, oh, he's going to be such a great dad. It's like, what are you basing that on? Yes, what are you basing this on? First of all, this guy's young, right? Mm-hmm. Do you know what his experience with children is? Like, how do you know he's going to be good with your kids? Right. And like, and you definitely can't trust people who say they're good with kids and, I have 3 nephews and I'm great with them. It's like, but are you though? Like you really have to see people with kids before you can gauge like how they actually are with kids. And that's even like, and even if she saw that, she would see like playing with somebody's kids is not the same thing as being a good dad. Right. Those are. The other thing that always concerns me about those situations is when, and I'm thinking of like Molly and Luis a little bit. I know it's not as extreme, but it's like when your daughter is closer in age to your partner than you are to age with your partner. I just find that to be so weird. Yeah, that is weird. Like that is weird. Like, and that's part of the reason I talked about how, the age thing bothered me is I have a pretty tight age window myself where I'm just like, that's weird. And like, so I have a sister that like is like 8 years younger than me, and anybody younger than my sister, I'm like, no, that's younger than my sister. No, because I remember like not like raising her, but like I like was old enough that I could change her diapers and stuff. Right. And so it's like, I can't, no, bad. But for some reason, sister age, okay. I don't know about that, Mr. Well, that's my hard cutoff. It's like it's an asymptotic relationship as it gets to my sister's age. Like the closer it gets, the harder it is to get there. Yeah, I just trying to make this man into a dad. And that's the other thing too is she wants to marry him right away, and it's like is having a father for your children so important that you have not involved them at all in this decision-making process? How could he possibly be a father to the children if like they don't even know him yet? Plus, he doesn't speak English anyway, so it's like, how successful is this going to be?
Right? The no English thing, because we've seen this before with the bees, remember bees?
Oh, yes. Oh, God.
Where he came in and and those kids hated that guy.
Yeah.
They hated that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of a worse way to introduce my children to anybody aside from, this is the person I'm getting married to. They're going to live here now. Oh my
they
God.
are now your father.
Yeah.
Good luck trying to talk to him.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I was just thinking about like even my situation, but yeah, when they speak English. But yes, here is this person that you can't talk to that is going to be in your house all the time. They are your father. Like, oh my God, that sounds terrible for a teenager.
I mean, at least from what we see on social media, it seems like Marcel has, integrated into the family and that they seem to all be getting along. That being said, I'm sure there had to have been years of growing pains to get where they're at right now.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah. And in that case, that oldest kid was like 15 when he came. So I'm sure he was just like, I got 3 years of this and then, because once you're moved out, it's like, who cares? Like, yeah. Once you're gone, mom can move in with whoever bring whatever weird non-English speaking person, whatever. You're like, all right, good luck, mom. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to Caleb and Alina. So first we see Caleb. He's visiting his parents, Sheila and Craig. Caleb has avoided telling his parents about Alina and generally about relationships because his parents are very Christian. So the expectation is that serious relationships should lead to marriage. Caleb asks to borrow a suitcase, which then leads to a series of questions where Caleb eventually reveals that he's going to Turkey to meet up with a, quote, friend, Alina, who is a little person. His parents are shocked, and his mom is relieved to know there's a chaperone there. They're shocked about the fact that he may be in a relationship. His dad is already talking about future children. They both have anxieties for Caleb because he tends to take risks in things that they just wouldn't. Caleb says he just wants to meet Alina in person. Meanwhile, Alina and her roommate Elijah are packing up the hottest outfits so that Caleb will fall for her based on her fashion. Alina is hoping that Elijah will help show how to assist Alina for Caleb. Elijah is more than happy to help, especially if things don't work out. He's going to be there to be her shoulder to cry on. Caleb's version of packing includes packing all his protein powders, tarot cards, and of course, a giant box of condoms. Caleb is excited and anxious about sex. He points out that you can only be in one place at a time. Josh, Caleb's brother, is taking him to the airport. He tells Josh that they have a great connection, but he's worried about it being weird in person. Alina and Elijah land in Istanbul, where Alina's friend from college, Maria, is there to pick them up. Maria is shocked to hear that they are staying in the same room. Alina points out that she may be poop shy. Maria has to leave as soon as she drops them off at the hotel because of an 8 p.m. curfew. Alina finds out that this hotel doesn't have an elevator and their room is on the 2nd floor. Alina is forced to take the stairs, and she is frustrated that Caleb didn't consider this when booking the room. They note that the bed and toilet are also very high, even for Elijah. Alina worries if Caleb doesn't understand her capabilities. The next day, Elijah is helping Alina get ready. She then asks him to go with her to the airport, but then leave right after because she wants her meeting to just be between Caleb and her. Elijah is a little upset about this because what's the point of him going all that way, because apparently it's a long ride to the airport, if he can't even be there to protect her like he was supposed to. Elijah goes with her anyway and tries to comfort her and pump her up while on the car ride. Caleb, meanwhile, is trying to clean himself up in the bathroom, Darcy style, after 30 hours of travel and no sleep. Okay, do you think Alina expected Caleb to know what kind of hotel she needed, or do you think she explicitly told him? Because she seems to be like, oh, this is like not a good sign.
So I was giving him some leeway for the bed and the toilet because
no one's putting that on their website. Like, you have no idea.
Right. You have no idea. The stairs, though, like, he knows she uses a wheelchair, right?
Yes.
And even if, she can not use it for short stretches, she's not carrying it up the stairs.
Right,
right. And we already know that. So the elevator stair thing, 2nd floor, that one's more concerning. Now, I'm also kind of like, maybe maybe he could have very well requested a first floor room, and they told him it was a first floor room, and then they go to check in and they go, here's your second floor room. Like I've had that that those kind of things happen at hotels before.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. No, I booked a Harbor View room, and they're like, here's your other room. You're like, what? Man, damn. Right. So that still could be the hotel's fault. We'll see what he says about that, because I mean, Caleb just gave off really, really strong vibes this year of this episode. I mean, of a really dumb guy that puts on glasses and thinks he's smart.
Yeah. Or spouts out new age shit and thinks he's like
just
prolific.
Spouts out like, well, the one that got me and the one where I was like, oh shit, was right at the end, because he meant to say something like, oh, you see people on the phone, you talk to them for 13 years, and it's one thing, but it's another thing to see him in person, right? But he didn't say in person. He said in the actuality of the flesh. And I was like, the what? The actuality of the flesh? Who talks like that? Unless you're just trying to use like words that sound fancy. Like,
I don't know. He's not quite on my shit list, but it's like,
oh no, not yet.
He's coming out as douchier by the minute, and it's not to say that I didn't
and dumber.
Right. It's not that I didn't think he was douchey right off the bat, because like his opening scene of him running, without a shirt on, I was like, okay, where's this gonna go? But I don't know. He seemed a little bit more likable. And I think his association with this relationship and him being open also makes him a little bit more likable.
Oh, yeah, sure. Just that he's exploring this relationship even.
Right. Him packing all that protein powder, not likable.
No.
I knew exactly what that was when I saw the big plastic like tubs. I was like, oh, hell no. You cannot be trying to pack that. Are you freaking kidding me? I think he's only going to be gone for like 2 weeks. You do not need 4 giant containers of protein powder. Stick that stuff in a baggie or something.
Yeah, having never used protein powder ever, I don't know how much you go through or how fast you go through it, but he probably has 4 different... Not that much in 2 weeks. He probably has 4 different types that he uses for 4 different things. This is my morning. And it all is completely just made up. I'm sure there's no scientific basis to anything he's doing. But you're right. You could put it in a zip. You could put your 4 thingies in 4 Ziplocs. You don't need to bring the entire tub.
I think it's all for show. There's no way he actually packed that. I swear he just threw it in the suitcase just because the show was on, and he was trying to like maintain a look like, hey, because you'll get this body by not having so much protein powder. And then like,
well, the fact that he followed up his 4 things of protein powder with a giant box of Magnums, it tells you exactly what he was trying to do in front of the camera.
Oh my gosh, I know, right? But and his tarot cards, like you needed to point that out. All right. Weirdo.
I mean, they always do give us the what are you packing thing, and there's usually something in there like lube or something in there. It's like right, but it's like, but that was my issue, was like we've never seen, with one exception, and the one exception is when Devin packed small size condoms for Jihoon because the condom fell off last time, and that's how they got pregnant.
Oh God.
With that exception, everybody who packs condoms packs Magnums, and they're like, well, I got a big box of just run-of-the-mill condoms that you gotta get. You're like, dude, that's sweet. And I was trying to debate the pack, because that was clearly like a 36 pack, and I was like, dude, how long are you going to be there?
Oh gosh, that's like what was it Angela who was like,
yes,
had some absurd amount of sex in a small amount. It was like, we did it 42 times in 2 weeks, and it was just like, we were doing the math on that. We're like, how is that even possible?
When we determined it is possible, but you have to be like, that has to be your goal. Your goal, you have to have a set number of, this is how many times we have to have sex.
There has to be a lot of lube and a lot of ice packs. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, yes. Well, I mean, if that was Angela in general, if you're going to do it 3 times, there's got to be a lot of lube. So,
well, and a lot of ice packs.
Yeah, probably a lot of ice packs as well, right? Oh, all right. So, what about Kim and Usman? So, Kim starts off by reminding us that she's going to Tanzania to meet her Nigerian love interest, Usman. They're not officially boyfriend and girlfriend yet. She wants to make sure everything is okay with her mom, Sally, before she goes. She feels like she's feeling selfish by leaving her behind because she is her primary caretaker. But Sally seems to want her to go. She's like, get out of here. Don't worry about it. I won't die while you're gone. So they say their goodbyes and the Uber pulls up and Kim is off to the airport. She thinks this trip is her chance to prove that she's not the least of it shall not be named and there is a future together for them. So then she gets on the plane for what she says is 30 hours of travel time. So 3 flights later, Kim is finally getting to Tanzania and she's, gonna beat Usman there by 1 day. He's flying from Nigeria the next day. So during that day, we get to see Usman, who is now 32 and from Nigeria. He's cutting a track in the studio, which sounds like it's going to need a lot of auto-tune later. So he says he hopes to be an international superstar like Michael Jackson or Chris Brown or Jay-Z, and then talks about his ex-wife, without, again, mentioning her name, and how her controlling nature ended the relationship. But then he tells us about how things are going well with Kimberly so far. He's not in love with her yet because, after that whole Lisa thing, he's learned better than to commit to any kind of relationship before meeting anybody. And he says that she is his potential. Then he meets up with his friends and associates, Badmus and Slam T, to plan things out for the Tanzania trip. The logistical things like, when are we shooting the music video? What are we doing while we're there? The friends think that Kimberly coming along is pretty unprofessional and is just asking for trouble, especially since it just seems like a replay. Another old American woman that's coming to watch you film a music video. So it also say that him dating all these old American women is really hurting his brand. He's got to watch that out. Because then they bring up Zara, who is the person that the song is about. And that's another American that he says he fell in love with, who broke up because of jealousy over his female fans. So, we saw all of them. So what's going on here? Does he just have a type or is it something else?
I don't think he has a type because we got to see Zara, right? So Zara is
Zara was very different. Yes.
Yes. And she is not the typical Usman type based on what we know. Zara was a young someone that his friends kind of thought was more who he should be with.
Right.
So I don't know if he really does have a type. I really do think he's very serious about his music and he knows that being on the show is going to give him the most exposure.
Yeah.
I also think that he thinks being in America is going to also help him, which is Zara was American. So maybe he wasn't necessarily going to be picked up on the show with Zara, but, that's something that he could benefit from. So I definitely think that he thinks of relationships as, okay, well, great, I'm into this relationship, but what else can I get from it? Mm-hmm. And I definitely think he is a little conniving like that.
Right.
At the same time, I just don't know if this seems like the type of person who's like that into love or relationship in the first place.
That's true.
He seems like so like the way he even talks about Kim, he's just kind of like, oh yeah, like she's there.
Yeah, he does. He does seem to be mostly in love with his music career, which is why I think it's kind of unusual, maybe unproductive, the tack he's taking, because he seems to be taking the tack of his music career as I'm as good as I need to be. I'm an amazing singer and an amazing artist, and I don't need to be any better. I don't know if he's taking singing lessons, and it's just like the only thing it's missing is opportunity. Right? Yeah. That's all that I'm missing. And it's like, that's not true. Especially because the way the friends talk about it. What are you doing? How are you doing this? You're Soulja Boy. You're the world famous international Soulja Boy. It's like, no, you're not. Like, you're not a world famous anything. Like, right. They're talking about him like he's Jay-Z or something. Like, oh, but you're Jay-Z. You can't, you have to date Beyonce. You can't date somebody else. It's like, but you're not on that level. And let's be honest, when he did his singing in the studio, he was not good.
No, I do think he's a bit delusional about his abilities. Do I think he's entertaining enough? Sure. Do I think he could be like produced to something that's like, sellable? Sure. But I don't know. I also think he doesn't have any standout talent. Right. I think there are lots of other people that can do what he does that aren't famous or rich, internationally known,
Sure. Yeah. and it's one of those things that's tricky because there's a huge difference between, the guys who play in the really good cover band that goes around town, and they're good and they can make decent money doing that.
Yeah.
But like the world of talent difference between them and somebody who actually like has a record deal is usually like, and actually makes the radio is like astounding. You know, it's the difference between like a college ball player and a pro. It's like, it's crazy how big the difference is.
Yeah. Okay. So I do feel bad for Kimbali.
Kimbali.
I do feel bad for Kimbali because she has this mindset that she has to prove herself to Usman. And I just think that is such a shitty situation for anyone to be in. Where you think that the other person holds all the cards and you're like, you need to love me and accept me. And you've like created this situation where it's like you really have everything to lose. The other person doesn't, and you've like made it seem like they're so much better than you. And it just makes me really sad to hear of someone talking about their relationship that way.
Yeah, I mean, because it doesn't even sound like, I don't even know what that is, because that's like a crush almost more than a relationship, right? Like she's just crushing on him and she is like, well, I have to do all the things just to be able to earn his love. And it's like, man, relationships are work, but you shouldn't be in the point where you feel like you have to earn their like love and attention.
Okay, but I think the reason why it occurs to me that is so sad is because I have felt that way, even though I don't think I would have verbalized it like that. And I think other, young people feel that way too, which is why you get these situations where you have young people that are just like, doing things for their partner that they wouldn't necessarily be into or want for the happiness of the other person. I need to prove that I'm a good partner by giving them a threesome. I need to prove that I'm a good partner by, showering them with gifts. I need to prove that I'm a good partner. And like coming up with all these scenarios and things where, you're trying to prove that you're the cool partner, like you're someone that, you can settle down with. And I think that this also goes for relationships where I think if one partner really wants to get married and the other partner is just like, does not have that shared interest. It's kind of like, I can see this happening too. And I've seen this with my, younger girlfriends, like, when I was younger too, just being like, well, I'm going to prove to him that I'm wifey material by, showing him that I can cook, showing him that I can, keep a nice house, showing him that it's very like antiquated, like gender roles in a way, but kind of proving that you're your wife material in a lot of ways, showing them that I can hold down a job and financially contribute, showing him that I could be a good mother. It's like all these things that I feel like, maybe are unspoken, but kind of the same thing. I'm trying to prove myself to this other person that I am a good partner. And it just makes me feel sad to hear someone talk like that. But I don't think Kim is like alone in, thinking like that, because I think a lot of people think that they're constantly having to prove themselves to get the kind of commitment that they're seeking for.
I mean, yeah, it's probably a little bit different because we're coming at it from different perspectives. That's certainly much more common in women, right? Guys just tend to be like, well, I guess I'm not good enough.
Take it or leave it. This is what you get. You ain't changing me.
Yeah,
I know.
Like, and if somebody breaks up, it's not like I have to go prove them. And I go, well, guess I lost that game. I'm taking the L on that one. Right. Yeah. And guess we're going to break up then, huh?
I think that is kind of a stereotypical, like, fundamental difference is guys are kind of like, well, I'm trying to be in a relationship to not be changed, right? I'm not going to change myself for anyone. I'm not, like, I want someone to love me and accept me for me. Yeah. And it is. I'm not trying to prove myself. Like
I'm not trying to prove myself.
I'm not trying to hide who I am or pretend to be someone else. You either accept me for me or not.
Yeah, but then you end up getting that because when the person who, I mean, it's just like any kind of negotiation, right? The person who's willing to walk away has all the power. in it, right?
Yeah.
The person who's more like, whatever, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. They don't have to do anything for that. It can not work out for them. So, yeah. But especially when it's coming from, but it's one of those things, you're right. You tend to see it coming from younger people and somebody who is older and has a whole, life of things and responsibilities and stuff like that. She's taking care of her mom.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and to be like, well, it's also in taking care of my mom, I have to be a cool girlfriend for my hot young husband. Like, that's tough.
Yeah. Okay. I had a question. I feel like you, king of geography, would know.
Fair.
Okay. How do you pronounce Tanzania?
Tanzania. Yeah. Tanzania.
Because the guys, Usman's entourage, kept on saying Tanzania.
Oh, maybe. I wonder if it's a British thing. Because I do know Nigeria, like the English they speak, it was because it was a British colony. The British that they speak is based on is British English, right? And so that's the thing I get into with all my Nigerian students, putting the U's in color and stuff like that, because that's what they were taught, right? So I wonder if, kind of like the British people say aluminium.
Yes.
I'm looking it up now. I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah. So I noticed it a couple times with the friends. So, yeah.
I've always just heard it be Tanzania.
Yes.
Tanzania. Yeah.
But then we've only really heard other American people say it, right?
That is true. That is true. But it's also tricky, too, because countries are so confusing.
Oh, yeah. Don't even get me started on that.
I mean, because, it's like...
What they refer to themselves as is different.
And sometimes it's the same, and sometimes it's different. Like, what we say... Cote d'Ivoire, but we don't say, Nippon. We just, it's weird,
Oh, yeah. Like I can say right now. So I'm in Thailand right now. They don't refer to themselves as Thailand. It's Siam. So.
Well, and that's what we used to call Thailand. It's so confusing.
I mean, it's not like they don't refer to themselves as Thailand, but I don't know. I guess it's like if the U.S. decided to change their name, I'm sure most of us would still call it the U.S. for a while. And maybe forever.
And yes and no, because some of them, it depends, because there's a whole mess of crap when it comes to colonialization, right? Because a lot of times when they change the name of it, like, when they changed Rhodesia to Zimbabwe, they're like, yeah, get that British guy's name off of our country. We're Zimbabwe now. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Let's move on to our last new couple. So we meet Mike from Teals, New York. He's an IT support technician and a volunteer firefighter. He describes himself as introverted, and this is emphasized with his building of Lego models we get. Mike lives with his dad and his grandfather, Pop, where he helps take care of his grandfather. Mike is happy living with his family, but he also admits it cramps his style. Mike says he hasn't had a relationship in the past 20 years, which, let me remind you, he's 34. So he had a somewhat serious relationship in high school for a year, and that's the extent of his experience. Since he's been so unsuccessful trying to find someone here, he has expanded his search to Colombia, where he met Jimena from Pereira, Colombia. They have been talking for a year, and Mike says that they have already been talking about marriage and kids. He admits that the language is an issue, but somehow thinks that they will understand each other in person. Mike stops by the fire station where he meets up with Steve, his younger brother, who also is a volunteer firefighter. Mike notes that Steve is much taller and has much more hair than him. Steve asks about the trip, and Steve also notes that this is the happiest he's seen Mike since their mom died about 9 years ago. Mike tells Steve that he plans on proposing if things go well, and he's even brought a ring. Steve is from another extreme where he was dating his wife for 9 years before he even thought about proposing. Steve points out that lies don't come out in just 2 weeks, and also Mike doesn't make good relationship decisions. Mike thinks that Jimena cares about him because she asks about what he ate. Mike plans on moving Jimena in with his dad and Pop. Mike goes shopping with his friends John and Nelsie later to shop for toys because their kids, John and Nelsie's, are the same age as Jimena's kids. Mike has no experience with children, so he's a little terrified by the idea of Jimena having children. He thinks by buying toys, this will show his commitment to the family, even though he claims his budget is $20. John thinks that Mike is blinded by Jimena's looks, and he doesn't actually know her. Even the cashier is skeptical of this whole situation. John warns Mike not to blow all his money on Jimena, and this is when Mike admits to sending money by paying her rent and buying a fridge and a washing machine. John thinks that this girl is milking him, and Nelsie thinks that he's also being used. Mike insists that he really trusts her. He thinks that the relationship seems too good to be true, and that's why his friends are skeptical. All right, do you actually think this situation is too good to be true?
Yeah, I do.
Well, what part? Because that to me was like what was weird. Too good to be true. You have a super hot girl and you have to send her a shit ton of money.
For
How's
him,
that
yeah.
Too good to be true.
For him, yeah. That he could. I buy that this guy couldn't even find a super hot girl that would let him send him money before. Like,
oh God.
She'd be like, no, thanks, I'm good.
Well, I think so too. I mean, okay. So Mike seems like a nice guy.
Now,
right?
wait, are you saying nice guy like he's actually nice? Or are you saying he's a, quote, like, internet, like, nice guy? Like,
I don't know. It seems like he could find someone here. But it also seems like, you know, when guys are, like, nice guys and they struggle finding girls, it's usually because they have incredibly high standards.
no,
like,
I believe that. I believe that.
Nothing below an 8. You know, and it's just like, okay, let's step back and reevaluate.
Right.
He's not a particularly tall guy. He said he's 5'4".
He's like 5'4". Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yes, because then he also says, like, oh, my brother's 5'10". It's like, oh, you did not get the good genes,
Yeah.
you know? Also,
Geez.
he's bald.
Oh,
Because
yep.
we say, Steve, full head of hair, right? Once
Yep.
again, did not get the good genes. So he's short, bald. He's clearly a little quirky, as shown by, I just like to live at home with my dad and my pop and build model trains and cars and Legos all day.
Yes. Also, I've never made pancakes in my life.
Yes.
Which is...
I'm a little quirky and have, like, never had a relationship, which questionably then also makes me wonder, is this a virgin?
You'd think so.
There's a possibility. So
a very strong possibility of that. Yep.
So you got all these things wrapped up into not exactly a normal, typical guy you see out and about on the dating scene.
Right.
So this is not the guy pulling in 8s, is what I'm trying to say.
No. Because the things that usually work for guys that make it, like, he's also shy, right?
Yes.
Like, he doesn't. I don't think he puts himself out there. I mean, I'm sure he spent a lot of time on the dating apps, probably swiping on 10% of women, like, who are all, like, just way out of his league, right?
Yeah.
Because if he leads, because that's the other thing too, is you're right. He hasn't had an experience. Forget, you know, sexual experience or whatever.
Right.
Like,
right.
at a certain point when you're 34, and it's like, what have you been? It's like when you have a gap in your resume, right? You're like, wait. What? Nobody wanted to deal with you. Nobody wanted to deal with you. Like, this is a red flag already, right? It's definitely a red flag if you're 34 and have no exes than if you're 34 and have a couple of exes.
Right. I think he really needs to lean more into this volunteer firefighter situation.
You think so? That's usually a pretty good, like, just
right?
wear that around. But that's the thing. If he goes out with his volunteer firefighter people, he's like the short, dumpy one. Like,
he doesn't look like he's a volunteer firefighter. You know, it's like, I think he gets enough. His dating app front picture needs to be him with that hat on. But that's
and like
what I'm saying.
Like, I
think he gets that. I think he gets that. Oh, people like firefighters. I'm going to be a volunteer firefighter because, you know, this is going to get the women. But it's like, that's the extent of his awareness, right? So you're right with the hat and the whatever. But then it's like, but I'm sure he still has his glasses on.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, you're right. He probably has a picture of him next to his tall brother. So, I mean, like, people aren't dumb when they look at, you know, these dating apps. And if it doesn't have your height listed, my friends are like sleuths, right? They're comparing what you are standing up next to. Oh, you're standing up next to a refrigerator. Like, let's check your height in comparison to this. Oh, you're standing next to this woman, you know, like, I've actually had that where I'm just like, wait, how could you tell they're short? They're like, guys, did you see that picture of him next to the refrigerator? I'm like, oh, I guess I didn't think about that. But, you know, it's like, what are you standing next to? That also gives you some like context. And like, I'm sure there's research out there. It's not just me being prejudiced against like shorter people, but it's like they just don't get as much attention or they don't get noticed.
Yeah, they don't. Absolutely not. Yeah. And they have to have something compensating for that, right? There's plenty of research out there that tall people get a lot of crap just because they're tall. And it's not just in dating. It's in jobs and all kinds of stuff.
It's kind of like how I always compare it. It's like height and looks are like your GPA and SAT score. You know, the taller you are, the less good looking you have to be. The shorter you are, you best be very good looking. The
sliding scale of like your GPA was kind of low, but you knocked your SAT out of the park.
Yep, so you're good.
Yeah, no, I believe that. I believe that. And some people just aren't into short people no matter how good they are. But then they usually have to make up for it in personality. And that's the other thing where we're kind of sitting on there. It was like,
it's not that he's a bad personality, just doesn't seem to have much of a personality.
He just seems boring. It just seems like a guy like, I mean, they asked him to talk about his hobbies and talk about his stuff, and he started talking about, well, this Lego set is a McLaren, and the McLaren's finished 4th in the Constructor Series this year. And so like,
he does have that nasally nerd voice going on, too.
Yeah, the voice is not great.
Yeah.
The voice is not great.
And then also you have someone who just doesn't seem like they are fun seekers, you know? Like he was talking about, you know, living with my family kind of cramps my style. My friends are like, oh, what did you do over the weekend? And it's like, I hung out with my dad and my pop. And they're just like, oh, well, you missed out on this. And he's like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially because those are his friends saying that. So in theory, if he wanted to go to those things he missed out on, he could. He just doesn't want to, which is going to be hard trying to establish a relationship where they're like, what do you want to do this weekend? He was like, let's just stay in my house with my dad and my grandpa and watch football. Like, not going to win anybody over.
I don't think it's going to get this far, but like this is the kind of good stuff that used to be on like the original, like a 90 Day Fiance. It's like, you know, your foreign fiance is like you living with your parents, you know, kind of like Colt and Debbie kind of situation. We're just like, what the hell? Like, I did not sign up to live with your family.
Signed up for a rich American. It was American. I assumed they were rich. This is not what I signed up for. Yes. Yeah, I could totally see a lot of that coming from her because it just doesn't seem like it too good to be true for him if he believes it's true love, right? That's where we started. Mm-hmm. But man, I don't see what she would see in him based on what little we've seen or you know pictures and stuff of her, except for
dollar signs.
Like his friend John said, except for like making that's what the closed caption says, mimics ATM sounds. Ching, 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 ching.
Yeah, I saw that. You know, I don't know how much appliances are in other countries. I can't imagine that different from what we have to spend, right?
I don't know. They threw me off. Remember when what's his face when Benny went shopping for a car in Ethiopia? And we were like, what the hell?
Well, if it's more expensive, I get that. Like anywhere just because of import taxes, right? Like how hard was it to get this item to your destination? So, but what I'm trying to say is he bought her a new washing machine and a new refrigerator. It can't be cheaper, that much cheaper than what we would get it for here. I guess is what I'm saying. I guess, and it's a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, it's Colombia. It's a few hundred, a thousand. Well, it depends. Let's say 2,000, right?
Yeah.
Which is not nothing, but I don't know. When you haven't been spending, when you've been
that's
34
true
and
too.
you're single and you haven't been spending money your entire life, and you know he's probably got some money saved up.
Yeah, that's true. But still, you shouldn't be sending money. I mean, that should be literally for everyone. Rule number 1: do not send your partner money.
No. Yeah. Pretty much. Rule number 1.
Yeah.
Like unless it's a like known sugar daddy situation and that's what you're going for.
Unless there's an arrangement and then you cannot have that expectation like, oh, they would love me if the money wasn't there. It's like, okay.
Yes. Okay. My favorite person in this was the lady who worked at the toy shop.
Oh gosh, with her double glasses and her like
double glasses. Like, what do you think about it? Like, I think it's risky, but I hope he gets a good cup of coffee. I was like, oh yeah, he is going to Colombia. That is what that lady would think is in Colombia, huh? Yeah,
that's funny. Yeah. I know. I didn't think of it first. It's like drugs.
Yes.
Sorry,
Right.
I'm sorry, Columbia. All right. Okay. Who was your student of the week?
I went, this is tough because I thought most of the
It
main
was
cast
tough.
did bad things. So I went with
Yeah.
Elijah.
I did too. Yeah, it was very tough. I was going through and I was like, no one's good this week.
No one's good. I mean,
Yeah.
the same issue with Class Dunce when it comes up. I was like, I could pick anybody. I could justify anybody on this show. But
True.
I like that he was like, I'm good Iron Man.
Yeah, I mean, he's like the friend that you want to have. Like,
Yes.
it makes me wonder a little bit. Like, he's such a good friend. It makes me wonder. It's like, does she pay him or something almost to be her assistant? Because I get that just the nature of relationship.
Because they're roommates. Maybe she gives him a deal on the room.
Yeah, maybe. Because I was going to say the nature of their relationship. I know it's one of those things where, he is just going to have to help out more, just because, that's just what she needs. But I mean, he goes above and beyond, like she could probably iron her own clothes,
That's true.
and she could make it to the airport by herself. But it's like he goes above and beyond. He's a good friend. He's the friend that you want to have.
He definitely does anything that beyond what because he was to the point where he's like, I guess I'll have to help you onto the toilet. Like, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. Who was your dunce then?
I went with Gino just for the weird. Okay, so we talked about the toothbrushes, but like, how fucking weird is it to bring pregnancy tests to somebody who, you let's make this note of this too. You haven't yet slept with.
It's also weird to me because you're not going to know by the end of this trip if she's going to be pregnant. That's not how it works.
No, it's not going to be.
Not
even
if
if you're plowing for 2 weeks, at the end of those 2 weeks, it's not going to be like take a pregnancy test. That's not how it works at all.
So I mean, she's perfectly capable of getting her own pregnancy test later on.
Yes.
When you're not there. So.
It's just a weird way of just being like, just so you know, before we start this trip, I expect to impregnate you during it. Like,
bizarre. Okay, so my dunce was actually Jazmine for lying about being on birth control. Like, what are you doing?
She should be just upfront about it. And she could be upfront about it. Hey, I'm willing to have kids with you soon, but I don't know you yet. And I'm not going to get knocked up by somebody the first day I met them if I can avoid it.
Okay, also, the whole, projecting her experience onto all men seems really unhealthy. Like, just because she was cheated on. And, her reasoning also was very, vain, too. Like, if someone could cheat on me, the most beautiful, intelligent person in the world, then no man can be faithful to anyone. That was her conclusion.
That was her conclusion, yes. It's like, oh, man, maybe, just, maybe being so full of yourself kind of drove him away. Just saying. But, yes. And I worry about that too, that she is with somebody that she considers below her standards,
right?
Just so she can be like, well, he wouldn't cheat on me. He couldn't afford losing me. Like, who would he find?
Yeah.
Who would he find that would sleep with him that's hotter than me? Nobody. So it puts her mind at ease,
yeah.
which is not how cheating works at all.
All right,
it is not.
All right. What about your life lesson?
All right, so we kind of already talked about it, the giant box of 36 condoms or whatever, but that's not even the part. Like, pack smarter, man. Why are you putting the entire box in? You can open the box and take them out.
I know, right?
It takes up a tenth of the space.
Yeah. Is that one of those things where you need to create a barrier? Like, can they not be squished in things?
I mean, you have to watch out because they can't be pinched in between things, and you can't get too hot, right? But puncturing is the bigger concern. Like, if you just put it in between two of your shirts, folding them up into a shirt, because it comes, they come in the strips, they're all chained together, and you can fold it over. It takes up no space at all in your suitcase.
All right, my life lesson is directed at Usman. If you're trying to be have this projection, you're a single person, a ladies' man, if you will, or at least, trying to make it seem like you're available for your fan base, probably having public displays of relationships, writing a song for someone. Not that he did this, but in the same ballpark of tattooing a name to yourself. Probably terrible idea because you'll always have to explain what the situation is with that person. You know, we're gonna find out. Kim is gonna ask about who this Zara is. Every other person after her is gonna ask, who is this Zara?
Oh man, and it'd be like, yes, at least if you're gonna write a song about someone, use a different name. Like, how about Laura? And you could be like, who's Laura? And you'd be like, I don't know, I just made up a name. It fits the rhyme.
Exactly. Right. Now, if Laura also is tattooed to your arm, you've got some explaining to do.
It was my first #1 hit, don't you see? I tattooed it on my arm.
Right. Yeah. All right. So, do we have a plan for next week? I don't know. We haven't talked about this yet.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm here.
I will be on a boat for 2 weeks.
Oh,
so.
We'll see. Stay tuned. We'll figure it out.
So there will be a surprise guest co-host
next week.
You will all be surprised. Well, since I will not see you all till then, happy holidays, and I will see you all next year.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Then.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.